Heather here. Welcome to my tutorial for the Edwardian Princess formula. And this tutorial also includes actions that are in the Painted Beauty collection. So that is also available to you in my boutique that I will also link in the below section in the comments section so that you will be able to find it easier. All right, and thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And let's get started. All right, so the very first thing I'm going to do is actually upload my actions. So what you want to do is to upload them. You're going to go to the little play button here, and you're going to go to the menu, go to Load Actions, and it'll basically bring up a folder on your computer. You want to find it in your folders, and then you just hit load once you find that action. Alright, so when you have your actions in here, this is what the Painted Beauty collection looks like. You have your tone foundations, you have your beautiful skin, you have your makeup brushes, your artistry paint brushes, and your finishing actions. And then you'll also have, with this tutorial, you're given the Edwardian Princess formula, and that's what's going to give you like the really moody painted feeling of that you see in this set of images here. Alright, so the very first action I'm going to play, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop my image, and with this one I ended up cropping it at an 8x10 size, and I'm just going to lower it a little bit and kind of bring it in this corner to center her a bit more. Okay. And then I always do some kind of adjustment on the image first, like take out things that are unwanted, or I use a liquify to fluff up the dresses sometimes and the hair. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy my background layer. So I'm going to grab it and I'm going to drag it down to the plus sign at the bottom here. Alright, so I'm going to rename this adjustments. And it's just going to be those adjustments that I was talking about. So I didn't love the little piece of hair that she's got poking out here. So I'm going to just go to my patch tool and I'll zoom in and take that out. So I'll just select it and then drag it to a spot that's going to match up and look, correct here. Right about there. Alright. And then I'm going to go up to my filter and I'm going to go to the liquify filter. And what I'm going to do is just kind of even out her hair a little bit here. And I'm just doing really slight motions. And I'm just going to fluff up her dress on this one side as well. Just kind of even it out with how poofy the back is. Alright. And maybe fluff out this sleeve a little bit more as well. And I'll hit OK. So that's before the adjustments and that's after. And I'm going to just flatten it. I'm a flattener. I like to flatten everything. So, alright, the next thing I'll do is I'll jump into the actions. And I like how kind of contrasty this is, but I'm just going to even it out a little bit with the even out section, action in the Painted Beauty collection. So I'll just hit play on that. And you can see it just kind of evens out the shadows, like kind of brings the shadows up a little bit. This is maybe too much because I do want this photo to still be moody, so I'm just going to bring the opacity on this layer down, maybe to maybe to about 25. And that looks good to me. And then I'm going to play the frequency separation action. And this one, when you hit play, it's going to say it needs to have flattened layers. And if you've already done that, you can hit continue. Now, this is a pretty big explanation about all these layers here. So on the blur layer, it's saying that you just want to take your lasso tool and you're going to select certain areas of the skin and then use Gaussian blur on it. And then I'm going to go in and paint under the eyes, and I'll show you how to do that. And then remove blemishes on the gray layer. And then this is a sharpen layer. So I'll show you how all of this works. And so then you just hit stop, and then you can continue with the lasso tool, like I said. So all I'm going to do is select areas of the skin. All right, and then I'm going to go filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And I usually keep it between 7 and 10 pixels. All right, and then I'll go select another section. And once you've already done the Gaussian blur action, you can hit Control-Alt-F, and it will replay that action that you just played. Control-Alt-F. And you just want to keep continuing until you get all the skin selected that you want softened. Control-Alt-F. And that is good. And to deselect, you just hit Control-D to deselect. Alright, so on the paint skin layer, you want to go to your brush, and you're going to actually change the mode from normal to lighten on your brush. I need a regular round brush here. And then you want to just turn the opacity on your brush down to 10%. And I wouldn't really go more than 10 because otherwise it starts to really show up. You want your hardness to be at 0% on your brush as well. Alright, so I'm just going to make my brush smaller, and I'm going to hit Alt, and I'm going to select a bright part of her cheek. And I'm just going to brush this under her eye to brighten up under that eye a bit. Now I'll do the same on this side. Alt, and paint under the eye here. Okay, and then you can continue to do that with any other spots on the skin that you just want to brighten up a bit. That's probably good right there. Okay, and then on the gray layer, that's where you're going to take your healing tool or your patch tool and just take out little impurities from the skin here. You know, little bits of dry skin or anything like that. She did not have much because her skin's pretty much perfect. And for the sharpen layer, you want to go back to your brush and you want to change that back to normal and 100%. And now you're just going to paint with a white brush over the details in the face, like the eyes, eyebrows, nose, and lips. Now, I have it at 40%, and sometimes, depending on the picture, 40% is good, but sometimes I'll change that opacity and bring it down to between 20 and 30%. Alright, and I'm just going to close that and show you the difference that the frequency separation makes. So that's the before, and that's the after. And I'm just going to flatten that again because it looks good to me. And then I have some other actions here, so if you didn't want to take the time to do the frequency separation action in the Painted Beauty collection, there's also the simple and quick skin softener action, which is just a paint on. You just paint it on over the skin, it softens it up. I have a remove dry skin action, so this is really good for newborns who have all the little flaky skin. Simple to remove. It's also great for cracked lips if you've got, if your client has cracked lips in there. And then this one here is a painted, it's a painterly look, like it kind of brings out the contrast in the skin. And if you paint it just over the skin but leave everything else quite soft, it really kind of brings out that painted look. And I'll kind of I'll show that to you. I don't know if I'll use it on this subject or not, but we'll see what it looks like. You can also bring the opacity down if you don't like the overall effect. But it just really, it kind of makes the skin look very glowy because it brings the contrast out. And you just want to lightly, at 100%, just paint it over the skin. So as you can see, it just really makes the skin pop. It's at 100%, so that's quite a bit. So you're welcome to change the opacity and bring it down if you want a little bit of that effect, but you know, not so dramatic. Maybe I'll leave it at 20%. Something like that. Okay. Now I have a dark skin foundation here. This is I have a creamy skin foundation and I have a dark skin foundation. So I'm going to play the dark skin foundation here. Paint over at 100%. So we're just going to paint this over her skin here. And it just evens out the complexion. Looks so pretty. Same with the creamy skin foundation, does the same. Okay, I might bring that down just a little bit, maybe 70%. That looks really nice. All right, we'll flatten that. Now I'm going to do the eyeliner on her. I'll hit continue. So that's, again, just telling you to remember to flatten your layers, because a lot of these ones need the layers to be flattened to work. And it's also just telling you to use your brush and paint over the eyes at 100%. Now, all of these layers are adjustable, so you don't need to worry if it looks a little crazy when you first paint it on. Okay. So it just brings out the lashes a little bit there. Okay. Now we'll try the iris details on this one. She's got very beautiful dark eyes, so I'm not sure how it will affect hers. So we'll press play and see how that goes. So this is just telling you to paint it on at 100% on the irises of the eye, and it'll just kind of bring out that color a little bit more. She's got these beautiful deep brown eyes. You know, it brightened up the catch lights quite a bit in her eyes, which I do like that a lot, so we'll just leave it. And we'll play the blush action here. Okay. And I always like to paint it at 100% on the brightest cheek, and then I'll take it down to 50 for the darker side of the face. And I have it at 50%, but I normally will take it down to between 20 and 30%, depending on the image. I think I'll leave it at 20 for her. And then we'll move on to the lipstick. And as you can see, I'm playing an action, I'm using it, and then I'm flattening, because again, like the next action usually needs a layer to be flattened. Alright, so now we'll go in and paint over her gorgeous lips here. At 100%, I have this on 50, but you know, all the actions say 100%, and then you just can mess around with the opacity of the layer if it's too much or too little, I guess that too. Now, these are kind of very red lips, so I'm going to really bring these down. Since she's just a little girl, we don't want to make her look like she's wearing a ton of makeup, just to put some more color in her lips and cheeks. And we'll flatten that. Then we'll brighten up the catch lights in her eyes. And I'm talking about the catch lights from the light source. So I'm going to paint over this and this. And it's just a subtle difference. But I do like my catch lights to be pretty bright. We'll flatten that again. And all I'm doing to flatten is right-clicking on the layer and then hitting flatten image. Alright, if she were showing her teeth, we would play the teeth whitening action. Alright, so I'm not going to do the bokeh background for this one because in the Edwardian Princess formula I have a different type of bokeh that I like to use. And I feel like she's bright enough so I don't need to paint on anything here. But I will do the painterly vignette on this one. So I'll just hit play on that one. Hit continue. And this one, I usually paint it on at 100%. But I definitely bring it down because it's going to paint on really dark. And I'll just lower that opacity till it's about right for my taste. Maybe 18% looks pretty good. All right, and we'll flatten that one. All right, so for now I'm just going to move on to the Edwardian Princess formula. So I'll start with the painterly matte, and this is just going to kind of change up the tones of the image, and we'll hit play for that one. I have it at 50% on this, but I like to only put it on a little bit. So I'm thinking maybe 25. Yeah, 25 looks good. So as you can see, it just kind of cools up the image a little bit, and it's got a bit of a matte. Flatten that. You can enhance the moody tone of the image by playing the moody tone action. And as you can see, it just darkens everything up. But I'm only going to put this on a teensy bit, like maybe 10%. And I even might lower my brush here to like 30 and just paint it off her a little bit. So I'm going to click on the layer mask. I'm going to change my brush to the black brush, and I'm just going to paint it off her just a touch. I'll lower it even more and make my brush a bit bigger. And just go around the edge there. Okay. Alright, so this is the fun part. I love playing the matte background blur. And this one just kind of gives it a really deep, smoky, blurry background. So I'm just going to paint that on. Oh, I have my brush opacity down. We want it at 100% here. And I'll just kind of paint around her at 100%, and I'm going to bring my brush down again and make my brush smaller and paint it a little closer to her. And I'll show you, let me just see where I painted that mask. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the difference. So that's the before and that's the after. Flatten that. And then I'm going to just do an overall matte. And this one is kind of a deeper matte finish. Play that on there. And I'm only going to put this one down to like 15% on that. Maybe 10%. Yeah. It's just a very light matte overall. And I'm going to go back to my I'm going to go back to the Painted Beauty collection. And I'm going to actually go down to the Artistry paintbrushes. I had just finished the Painterly Vignette, but I'm going to move on to the Dodge. So we are actually, do I want to paint on? I'm going to paint on some light, maybe on her, just a touch. I'll keep my brush at the 33%, and I'll just brush that over her a little bit. Yeah. Okay, flatten, and we'll go to the Artistic Dodge brush. Okay, continue. It's just telling you to use your Dodge brush at between 3 and 5 exposure. I usually just paint it on at 5. And what you want to do is you want to take your Dodge brush and just paint over the highlights on the skin and clothes and just really enhance those. And even in the hair, just kind of everywhere. You could put some on the background if you feel like it needs it. This beautiful dress is from a company named Alexandra Sam, and I would highly suggest to check them out. They make beautiful gowns for children and high-end clothing for children. I can put a link below to their Instagram account. Also, the background is from Intuition Backgrounds. If you haven't heard of them, definitely go look up them on Instagram as well. Alright, so let's just do a before and after on that. Before, after. It's just punching up those highlights. And I'm just going to do a little bit in the flowers behind her. Okay, we'll flatten that, and then we'll go in and do the Artistic Burn brush. And so this is basically the same, except you want to be on your burn layer, you want it to be on the shadows, and exposure between 3 and 5. And you'll just go in and paint over any shadows you want to enhance. All right, that looks good. We'll flatten there. And then the next one that I want to play, and I absolutely love playing this oil paint finish on most of my images. It really softens everything up, makes the skin look super smooth, and it kind of gives it that glowy look as well. So we will play that one. Hit continue. And there's 2 layers on this one. There's the paint effect, which it suggests to paint off of the eyes, nose, and mouth. And then you go to the sharpen details. And this one I usually just sharpen a little bit in the eyes, and maybe on just like little details like their earrings or whatever things that they're wearing that I want to enhance. Alright, so we'll go in with the paintbrush, opacity at 100%. And since this is a white mask, we're going to paint over it with a black brush. And just paint it off the eyes. I usually do the eyes, eyebrows, nostrils, and lips. And I'll just kind of show you, like in the dress, for example, how it's just softening up those details and enhancing the painted look. All right, and so with the sharpen one, you need a white brush, and I'll show you like on her earrings here. I'll just kind of paint it over, maybe sharpen up those highlights in the eyes, maybe this brooch, oops, wrong brush. You could sharpen up the sparkles in the brush, or brooch I mean, things like that. And before and after, and I'll just zoom right in on the skin here so you can see before, after. It's very subtle, but it really, with it all together, it really makes a huge difference. Alright, and then the next thing I always play after I do the oil one is I do an overall sharpening for a print. And sharpening it after you've softened everything kind of, again, adds to that really painted look. Alright, so sometimes I'll leave it at 50, but a lot of the time I'll put it down to about 30% and just watch the eyes. Again, it's just sharpening up everything there. Okay, and then I always add a light noise. When you work a lot on an image, you don't want those like little imperfections to show through. So what the grain does is it kind of tricks the eyes and hides like little imperfections and things like that. So I always add a little bit of light noise. It kind of evens out all the work you've done. Alright, I do have a flatten action here as well in here, but I always just right click anyways. I put it there in case, you know, people thought it was easier and faster to just use it with an action. And then I have a resize for social. So if you want to resize it to share to Instagram, Facebook, any social media platform, this is a really good and quick action for that. Alright, so I'm going to go into the history here. I'm just going to take a picture and we can show you the before and after of everything we did with those 2 action sets. So this is when we opened, this is the opened image, no work done on it. And this is the finished with the Painted Beauty collection and the Edwardian Princess formula.